How you doing? I'm Chris Foord, and welcome to the Double O Show. I got Mark Mumby with me, who is a huge fan of wrestling, and that's what we're talking about today is wrestling. So, Mark, let's get right into it. First off, The Rock, he made a big splash. Was it last week that he came back?
Yeah, he showed up on Friday night SmackDown, and it was actually quite a big surprise, to be honest, Chris. Like no one there was no leaks. There was no one really knew that The Rock was going to show up. So they hit it well.
Now, it seems like when The Rock comes back, it's always a big hoopla. Now, is he back to stay for a bit, you think, or is it just because, like, hey, we're going to give you $5 million to come make an appearance?
No, I think we're going to see a long-term program here. Last time he came back was about 10 years ago, and he did a 2-year program with John Cena. So it's I think why we're seeing this now more than anything is uh, one, he doesn't really have much going on Hollywood wise right now with the writer's strike.
All right, good point. Yeah,
So he's pretty much a free agent right now to unless he's going to be promoting Terramana, he's not doing much, right?
yeah.
So what better to do than to go home to where the fans love him most? He's had a few flops in the theaters lately, so a guy like The Rock, he wants to go where he can get that energy back, get that boost, reboot himself, and come back and come out as a heavy hitter when the world's ready for him again.
All right. So, did he come back as a heel or as a baby face?
Well, this is kind of interesting because we're expecting him to be a baby face, but we had that whole bloodline story going for quite some time, and we never seen him and Roman Reigns ever kind of confront each other on this. So, are we going to see The Rock and Roman Reigns, or are we going to see The Rock join Roman Reigns?
Yeah, I don't know. I think The Rock should come back as a heel. I think they should convert him back to a heel. I think that's where he's best, and that's where WWE really shines, right? Personally, I
Yeah,
think that. I don't know.
They're
That's just
they're doing a lean towards a lot of the 90s too, though. Like you get a lot of 90s vibe out of wrestling right now. They have
yeah,
another guy, his name's LA Knight, and he really, really pulls off that almost Stone Cold vibe, right? So, it's they're trying to pull that energy back in. I think we're gonna see a bit of a refresh reboot with WWE over time here. And The Rock was a quick sign to say, you know what, we're gonna show you guys we have some stuff still in the barrels here, but that also comes back to something that I might cover a little later on if we actually get to it. So,
yeah, for sure. Well, moving on then. I know some wrestlers are up for contracts next year, including Becky Lynch, 36 years old. She'll probably likely sign on again. Don't you think? Or
yeah, I don't see Becky Lynch going anywhere. She's a top tier star with WWE. It would be a horrible career decision to not re-sign. Even if it was on a lighter schedule. A lot of these bigger names, like once again going back to Roman Reigns, he's on a part-time schedule, even though he's the champion, right? Like we see him, maybe once a month if we're lucky. Sometimes.
who did Becky marry back in 2020? Was that Roman
Seth
Reigns?
Rollins.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah,
Seth
yeah,
Rollins. And
yeah.
they have a daughter together. So, I could see her going to a lighter schedule so that she could spend more time with their daughter and stuff like that. Seth Rollins just recently released in an interview, too, that he's been suffering back injury for quite some time, like a couple of years now, that he's been needing surgery. So that might coincide, too, with, she might resign to take some time off and, help him get back on his feet. Because if he's talking about surgery, it's coming.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about a little bit more about injuries in wrestling here shortly. Just one more guy, Sheamus. He's 46 years old. He's up for a contract next year. Has he been a big deal lately, or?
He's one of those guys that's just always there, and he's never left the main roster. Like they've never really kind of bumped him down to like a jobber status or, made him anything that wasn't worth him saying, you know what, I have a great career here. He's got a lot going on with WWE, so I don't see why he wouldn't resign either, right? Because
Yeah,
when you I find in wrestling, most of these guys, they either really love where they are or they want to try and find a bigger paycheck. And a lot of these long-term stars with WWE, they're quite happy with where they are. If they were going to leave, they would have left long ago.
Right, right. So we're going to talk about injuries here in just a sec. Just saying what's coming up. We got some. We're going to talk about Vince McMahon, WWE, and AEW. All right, so we'll get to that here shortly. But let's go to injuries for a second.
Yeah.
Nia Jax. This is interesting because she's not the one getting hurt, but she's hurting a lot of other wrestlers at the moment. It
Yeah.
seems.
She got a history of this. She broke Becky Lynch's nose, which is what created the man character for Becky Lynch, right?
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So like she's been known to be a stiff wrestler. She hits hard, and some of these women just they can't handle the momentum that comes behind a hit from Nia Jax.
Now, Nia Jax, like, isn't there a responsibility on both sides of the road? So I know, like, back in the 80s, you'd have guys with a staple machine and stuff like that and really driving staples. And it was cruel. It was mean. But, is it cleaned up a little bit? Like, there was a wrestler, I forgot her name, but it was just this past week, and she bruised another wrestler's, her ribs kind of thing. Like, is there a responsibility, you think? Like, shouldn't you have a little bit more trust in who you're fighting? Or because you could ruin
Most
someone's career
definitely.
easily,
You're supposed to be looking out for each other. But we also have to keep in mind that just wrestling is just like everything else in life. There are personalities and egos that clash, and sometimes where they may not be the best of friends, they come at each other a little stiffer. Or if
Yeah.
someone wants to, make an impact, wrestlers sometimes have to improv to get to the next level. If we rewind back, there was a point in time when The Miz, he was the Intercontinental Champion, and he was not seen on TV really at all. And he took it upon himself. He blew right off script. He took it on upon himself to be a whole different version of himself, and he improved it, and it changed him, and it changed his path, and he is now one of the biggest stars in WWE for making that decision. So a lot of
Yeah.
wrestlers will look at that as they're trying to figure out what to do to make the impact. They look at things like that and they say, okay, well, maybe this is the time to pull my improv and see what happens. And unfortunately, sometimes people get hurt in that improv.
Kind of like an NFL quarterback, you can have the coaches coaching him so much about what to do, but sometimes, you just got to improv to make a play out there, right? And you have to go
Well,
off script.
that's exactly
Yeah.
it. If we go
Yeah.
back to WrestleMania, when Shane McMahon made his big return, he'd made one move and he tore a muscle in his leg. And Snoop Dogg, out of all people, Snoop Dogg had to improvise to fix the situation.
What do you smoke a joint on there? Or
No, actually, he decided to throw a couple punches, and it worked out quite well for him. But
yeah.
out of all people to save a wrestling show, Snoop Dogg.
Yes. He's got a high IQ too. That's a guy I like to meet, smoke a J with for some time. Okay. Well, we're going to get back to injuries here in just a little bit. But what about Vince McMahon? What's happening with him? You saw with a cane the other day.
Yeah,
Did you go
he
through
did some
surgery?
back surgery.
Oh, yeah. How old is he? Like, what, 76, 77?
74, 75, I
Okay.
think.
Yeah, he's getting up there. Yeah, I guess he
Yeah,
need back
he is.
surgery.
Yeah.
So with that, of course he left WWE because he had to spend like what $14 million to women that he was having affairs with, some of whom were in WWE. He
Yeah.
came back, took control of WWE again, and so what? So they're owned by Endeavor now, is it Endeavor? Yeah.
Endeavor. Yeah. So really, to sum this story up, it's really interesting because Vince, yeah, he stepped down, and everything we thought we were going to see WWE head in a whole new path. We were as a fan, I was quite excited. Like it was almost refreshing to see new eyes and new thoughts feeding the machine. And we find out when Vince stepped down, he had all these hush money scandals that we're now hearing about. But where I'm leading with this is rather interesting because right now he is holding a high seat with Endeavor and WWE, but he might have to step down again because of all that hush money scandal, because he's now in legal proceedings, and everything that he just fantastically and elaborately did in Vince McMahon's status is probably going to be dissipated because he's got to go deal with courts now.
So, I mean, he really did kind of come back, though, I guess, to make even more money for everyone, right? When he did come back in January, probably to make the sale to Endeavor. It was probably the best thing for everyone involved, even though he might be booted out again.
Well, it was the best thing in the sense for WWE because it's going to create larger machine. It's really interesting because just last week I was reading that it's been revealed that Vince McMahon actually had the opportunity to buy UFC back in the early 2000s, and he turned it down.
Yeah, yeah. So now
And
UFC own
well,
WWE.
Endeavor owns
Yeah,
UFC and WWE.
yeah,
But where we're going to see this go, I think, is like I was hearing that Endeavor feels that uh, WWE is going to be like a good secondary play for UFC fighters. Like, you have a fighter like, let's take Conor McGregor. He's got a lot of fire in the firecracker part of him, but he can't really hold up in the octagon much anymore, right? So what
yeah.
better to do than to move him on to our secondary product where we need guys with charisma and we just got to train them up to not hurt people,
Of course, we've seen that before with Brock Lesnar,
with Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey.
Ronda Rousey. That's right. Correct. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah,
So
it's good. It's good for
It's
everyone
it's
involved.
possible to see a lot more UFC fighters as they're getting towards the end of their career, or if they suffer an injury that they can't go on, may move on to WWE, which will just definitely kind of change up the roster. Like with this Endeavor acquisition, they just laid off like WWE just laid off like 100 people last week.
Yeah.
And I think this is to make room for what Endeavor has planned.
So when you think of WWE, I mean, it's a powerhouse of wrestling, like the NFL is in football. And quickly, The Rock, he owns XFL. Well, there's rumors that XFL might be teaming up with the USFL. Where are we standing right now with WWE and AEW? Does AEW like even stand a chance right now? Like it seems like you got this huge WWE, and then there's AEW. They're trying, but are they losing steam? Where's AEW right now in the mix of things, or could they be swallowed up or just become non-existent in the next few years?
I don't think enough people give AEW credit. Okay.
Yeah,
The thing that people need to remember about AEW is the brainchild behind it all is Tony Khan.
yeah.
And Tony Khan's dad owns the Jacksonville
Like the
Jaguars.
Jaguars. Yeah, yeah,
So what I honestly foresee happening here, because it was leaked a couple weeks ago too that Endeavor feels that AEW is a legitimate threat to WWE. Like they feel like they are a legitimate threat, so they want to eliminate their competition. So I see Endeavor probably trying to pull something big off between UFC and WWE. But what people aren't thinking is Tony Khan isn't stupid. If WWE pulls that, he'll just probably try and do something with NFL or something like that. Like he's not going to lay down and be taken out. Right.
yeah,
He's got the money to do whatever he needs to do. He's the first competitor to take his wrestling show across seas to Europe. There's
yeah.
been no other competitor of WWE that's had the scale to take it overseas or to another country. They just did a Canadian tour. Like
I,
they are a legitimate threat. And
yeah.
if Endeavor doesn't handle WWE properly, AEW does have the potential to become a more premier wrestling product.
Yeah, they had their big Grand Slam stage last night. I believe that was in New York City or something like that for their fight.
Yes. Unfortunately, once again, with that though, here's my concern with AEW is Tony Khan is a big wrestling fan. He's not a wrestling promoter.
Right.
So he's just kind of letting the wrestlers kind of run the ship. He's letting the students run the classroom. The kids are running the house right now. And people are getting injured. One of their top tier stars, John Moxley, he suffered a concussion last night in his match. And this concussions are very common in AEW right now. Injuries are very common. And
Is it more
you're
of a
not
Wild West kind of wrestling because
it
like
is
they're
a
trying
hundred
so hard?
percent,
Yeah.
100%. Like you can turn on a show and you're guaranteed you're going to see blood. Like they have blood on almost every show.
So they're trying to
And
make it old school
well,
a
they're
little
they're
bit more.
definitely they like to add that color, right? They think that if they feed into older fans that are looking for what WWE refuses to put on, they give the fans what the competitor isn't willing to do.
I just had a thought. AEW should sign Shane McMahon, be their promoter.
There have been a lot of thoughts, and a lot of people have said, like both Shane and Stephanie are not with WWE right now.
Yeah, well, like why not? And like you also get some transferring going on with wrestlers as well. Like, is it Cody Rhodes? Right, he's the son, the
Yeah,
blonde hair. Like, of course,
yeah.
he was AEW, and now he's gone to WWE. I believe the Edge has gone to AEW now, hasn't he?
Well, with Cody Rhodes, yeah, Cody Rhodes actually was one of the guys. He was one of the guys that actually started AEW,
Yeah, he
and
was a face of it,
yeah,
really.
oh
Yeah,
yeah, and he was one of the big reasons that AEW actually started. And when he moved back to WWE, it was kind of a surprise, but it was the best thing for his career. We're seeing that happen with another one, which is Jade Cargill.
Cargill. Yeah, he
She
just went back
she
to WWE.
well, she's moving to WWE, and
She,
yeah, and the reason that this is big is she was their top tier female wrestler. And what's going to happen here is, like, we go back to Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch willingly put herself down into NXT, which is WWE's kind of, I guess we could say, starter program, right? And what we're going to see now is we're going to see Jade Cargill go into NXT. And Becky Lynch is the current women's champion there. So once again, I'm going to go back to where we were talking earlier. If we see Jade Cargill come in and beat Becky Lynch, this is going to already launch her to top tier status. And this doesn't hurt Becky in the least, because she went down to that product to help launch these new stars.
yeah, yeah, that's
So I
interesting.
so this is where, yeah, you're saying, well, are we going to see more interchange like that? And yeah, we will, because uh, WWE has multiple shows that are successful. And for someone like a champion in AEW to have an opportunity to get launched to a larger status and a bigger paycheck in even just a bit comparable program. Like, when AEW came across Canada, even though it was a successful tour, a lot of the shows didn't have many fans in attendance. That
Yeah,
doesn't happen with WWE. If you even go to a house show at WWE and it's sold out.
yeah.
You know, very rarely does AEW have a sellout show right now. So this is where the wrestlers want to feel that electricity, right? Like, I couldn't even imagine what it's like to hear 90,000 people screaming.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And
Wembley.
they're all and they're all screaming for you.
Yeah. Or that SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, right? That was where WrestleMania was last year, wasn't it? Was it WrestleMania?
Yeah,
The new big stadium?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's funny. We've been talking about NFL. Like you think like AEW might sign up with the NFL, but NFL have those wrestling belts out right now with the teams.
Yes, they do.
Everyone except for the Jacksonville Jaguars
Yeah.
because of the con owners there. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up here shortly. But Randy Orton, he was seen around the Performance Center, the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida. He hasn't been wrestling since May 2022. What was his injury all about? Or was it?
He Back injury.
Oh,
He's
back
got
injury.
a
Yeah.
really bad back injury, and it was questioning if he was going to ever come back. And to
Yeah.
see him at the Performance Center is a really, really good sign. That I was really happy to see that, because I will tell you right now, when he got injured, not the biggest Randy Orton fan, but since he's been gone, I can say that it will be very good to see him come back. He is something that is lacking in WWE right now. He brings something that is almost irreplaceable. They couldn't find anyone to fill those boots while he was
Well,
gone.
when you think of Randy Orton, like he really kind of found his role in WWE in the last few years too. He was really like he became the heel, but everybody kind of started liking him like the Stone Cold kind of. Well, that's
Yeah,
kind of why I thought of
he's
it. And
the anti-hero.
he just really kind of became that guy, and then he got hurt, which is unfortunate. But yeah, hopefully makes a return. Quickly, Kurt Angle, he was on Joe Rogan the other day, and he was talking about this guy's really messed up. He's got like dead nerves in his neck and stuff. I think he's broke his neck 4 times. You know any
Yeah.
more about Kurt? Like.
Oh, Kurt, all we can say is he's a legend, but he went into wrestling off of the Olympics, where he broke his neck winning the gold medal. Like,
Yeah.
this guy is unreal. He wins a gold medal with a broken neck, and then he goes into professional wrestling and unfortunately breaks it 3 more times. Uh, I Yeah, I couldn't even imagine the pain or the issues he suffers. As someone who's had neck surgery once in their life already, I look at the trouble I have with my hands and stuff, and times that by 3, like
Yeah, he has
4.
like his hands are always cold. He says, I guess he's lost like 3 inches in each arm. Like I think like the length and stuff because of the surgeries. But yeah, it's really crazy. Like these guys are athletes. The girls are athletes. It's amazing, and wrestling is always amazing. But yeah, Mark, this was fun, and we'll definitely talk more about wrestling as well, and we'll talk about some other things in the future as well. But it is a Double O show. That is Mark Mumby. I'm Chris Foord, and I just want to say thank you to everyone for chilling out with us today.
Have a good one. Peace.